Speaker.
Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I rise to speak to the Social Assistance Living Alone Payments Amendment Bill. So this bill has been stated by others already, seeks to amend the New Zealand Superannuation and Retirement Income Act of 2001 and the War Pensions Act of 1954. So currently single superannuitants and veteran pensioners who are living alone are eligible to receive a supplementary benefit through the work and income process, which has to be applied for separately. And this is in recognition of the extra costs of maintaining a household when there are dependents. So this bill recognises that it streamlines the system so that people will not now have to apply for, go through a separate application to be able to receive their full entitlement. And it was great to hear the Minister introducing this bill, talking about the importance of people being able to access their full entitlements and to have that support of the state in their time of need, because that is a core principle of the Social Security Act, and I would love to hear that kind of discourse more often in this House. And I'd also just like to reference the member Melissa Lee's comments about grief and the importance of having a process that enables people to survive when they're not necessarily able to function in that times of grief, and how completely overwhelming and destabilising that grief is, and how we want more for our old people than to have to deal with, or anyone in grief, than to have to deal with bureaucracy to be able to feed themselves and care for their dependents in that time. And the importance of us as a country being able to support people through that grieving process, and as well as we can. And they are, I think, very important values for us to be able to focus on, and a very positive, wonderful thing for us to be able to end the year on, is to think about how we can support others in our community in their times of need. So I'm thankful for the government reintroducing this bill on the last day of the House for this year, to be able to focus on those values at this time. And I recognise that this is, that care for our elderly has been an important, I think, aspect of our society, and that we've managed to avoid high levels of poverty within our older population in New Zealand, because we've looked at having universal entitlements and streamlining access to income support. And it is a very stark contrast, sadly, to the news we've had this week around the levels of child poverty. In contrast, because we don't have those systems of universal entitlements or ease of access to the existing entitlements. And I would love to see some of the thinking behind this bill extended to more of our population, to ensure that we can actually address the levels of poverty where they are greatest in our country at the moment. I also note that some of the changes that happened with this bill within Select Committee seem to be very sensible, just in terms of the transition periods and recognising that the dates of this coming in, that people shouldn't be unduly affected because of the commencement dates, and also the change of the commencement dates. It's been 2 years. We had hoped to have this, as the Select Committee had suggested, that the commencement date be the 6th of July 2011, when they reported back. I'm liking that we can talk about this on the last day before the holidays, but really I think it would have been better to have been able to get this through the House when we have so much support for it a bit earlier, so we could have got, made these changes as they needed to happen. And I would also like to acknowledge the Labour Party's concerns that were referenced in the minority report, and look forward to seeing the SOPs that they bring forward, because if we are looking at that this is for provides that support for people when they have dependents up to the age of 18, but there doesn't seem to be a protection or provision for people who are caring for dependents, and particularly over that age of 18. And there is significant chance that people may be caring for children with intellectual disabilities who may be older than that, and I would not like to see them miss out on the opportunity of the streamlining support that this bill offers. So I look forward to that. And I do need to just say that while we really support this bill, I was yesterday in Auckland at the Auckland Action Against Poverty rally and seeing their impact that they're having at the work and income offices in Onehunga, to where they have advocates from all around the North Island who are on the streets outside the work and income office there at the moment, where people going into work and income can sit down with them and talk to them about their case and find out what their entitlements are. And I think 12 work and income officers have been designated to work on their cases, and what they're finding is that most people have entitlements that they weren't aware of, that they had not been informed of until the intervention of these advocates. And that's a result of our law as it is at the moment. And nothing in terms of the welfare reforms that we've seen this year have done anything to make our social security system more accessible. It's done nothing to help people get the entitlements that they need to be able to live and support themselves and their children. And I think that is a tragedy. And Onehunga, and the numbers, when I was there were queues of people waiting to see these advocates. And we know that that could happen in any work and income office around this country, where people could turn up and would be queuing to get advice to get their entitlements, and that they would find out they were entitled to things they'd never been told previously. And that is a shame on us at this time of year, at any time of year. I'd also just like to mention, in relation to this bill, that on the order paper there are many bills relating to social security and amendments. And we, indeed, in Select Committee at the moment, we are considering another bill relating to social security. And I would just like to reference the submission made in that process by the Legislation Advisory Committee, Committee of the Attorney General, who noted that actually the base legislation of social security isn't in very good shape, because there have been just so many amendments to this bill without anyone taking it in hand and making it fit for purpose. And we keep on just picking up these small aspects of it and trying to fix them, or going in with a piece of ideology and thinking and trying to reshape it to meet that. And it's resulted in a huge amount of inconsistency and has made the Act really inaccessible. And since it was introduced, the Act has been amended 131 times. And this actually matters because it means it's really hard for people to know what they're entitled to. And this is when it's about people surviving, people struggling to feed themselves. It's important that they know what they're entitled to. So I'm advocating for a complete overhaul of this Act, and it would be lovely to see it more consistent with the thoughts behind this particular bill today, about making sure everyone can get the entitlements they need and that they're supported in times of stress and able to look after themselves and their children as well as they possibly can. Thank you.
Jamie Lee Ross.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to support this bill. It makes